All right. So, welcome to Urban Media Arts' first Malden City Ward Forum. My name is Guillermo Hamlin, and I will be your moderator this evening. We thank you for tuning in and to all the candidates for participating. Tonight, we feature the candidates for Ward 1, 3, and 4. Please make time to tune in for our other ward events. On October 7th, we will be focusing on Wards 5 and 6, and on October 20th, we will conclude with candidates from Ward 7 and 8. Visit our site or follow us on social media for up-to-date changes and/or confirmations. In a few moments, I will introduce the candidates who will be participating this evening. We will do wards in order of their number, and each individual candidate will take turns going first in their individual ward races. We will start alphabetically, then alternate within each ward. Candidates will be given 4 minutes for their opening statement. The questions were chosen for ones that were submitted by the Malden Chamber of Commerce, the Malden Advocate, the Greater Malden Association Asian Coalition, Chinese Culture Connection, and the Malden High School Blue and Gold. All were reviewed and edited for time and content. Now, all the candidates will be given the same question. Even if one seemed to be an issue in only one ward, our decision is based on the reality that every winner will be voting on every issue once elected. Now, each candidate will be given 2 minutes each to answer each question. Candidates may use their 2 minutes to either answer the question or split their time to answer, then the remaining time to rebut something that someone may have said about them. It is very important that each participant keep to the time allotted. A yellow light will come on signifying that there are 30 seconds left, and a red light that will mean that time has run out and you must stop talking. We hope to get through 8 questions and the time is tight, and we look to your cooperation to get this done. UMA, Urban Media Arts, formerly MATV, has been doing political forums since we've opened our doors in the early 90s. And although we have changed our name, we are still connecting people and organizations as we foster Malden's engagement in the political process. It is vital that all voices are heard, and UMA is delighted to be taking the lead and making sure that this happens again. We thank you for taking the time to join us. Now, I'm going to introduce the candidates, and then I'm going to read a statement from one of the candidates that could not have made it tonight. For Ward 1, we will be introduced by our incumbent, Peg Crow. Unfortunately, we will not be met by our challenger tonight. I will be reading a statement after introductions regarding her time. For Ward 3, we have incumbent Amanda Lenahan and her challenger, Glenn Curtis. And finally, for Ward 4, we have our incumbent Ryan O'Malley and his challenger, Jeffrey Allen Donahue. Now, before we get into our first question, I'm going to read this statement from Nadej Philippe. Candidate for Ward 1, Nadej Philippe could not make it to the forum tonight. She wants to say that as a nurse, she got called into work a double shift because of the increase of patients due to the increase in variant cases. She apologizes and wishes to all the candidates well tonight. Thank you so much, Nadej Philippe, for that statement. And now our first question. Thank you so much. This question will go first to incumbent Ward 1 Councillor Peg Crow. You will have 4 minutes to answer this question. You will have 4 minutes. My apologies. You will have 4 minutes to make an opening statement, and then we're going to lead into the first question. It's okay. As you also, we have some hands there. So I'm going to unmute Councillor Peg Crow, and you will then you'll be allowed to make your 4 minutes of opening statements. Thank you.
unmuted now? Okay, because it didn't say that it was, but anyway, excuse me. And good evening. And first, let me say thank you to UMA for hosting this forum and for the participating organizations that have submitted the questions, and of course to the residents for their active participation. As Guillermo said, I am Peg Crow. I am the current Ward 1 City Councilor. And for those who don't know me or what brought me to this position, I was born and raised in Malden, went to school in Malden, and still live in Malden, obviously. And it's because I know how much Malden has to offer and has offered me. I'm a daughter of an immigrant. My mom was born here, but my dad was born in Ireland. And as an adult, he lived in Ireland as an adult, and he moved to a couple of countries before he landed in the United States. In Ireland, my father was a blacksmith, and he did some boxing, but he was no Muhammad Ali. But however, by the time he reached the United States, even in the late 50s, early 60s, when he got here, the land of opportunity did not have much for someone that could shoe horses and had well below a high school education. And my mom was a very hardworking secretary, but she knew she had to build the network of supports for our family and as we were growing up. So at a young age, my parents really instilled in us the importance of building community, of working together as a community, and to giving back, and to do it respectfully and honestly. I have a master's degree in nonprofit and public organizational management. So it's kind of the both sides of my life, because professionally, I've been working at the YWCA for more than 30 years. Currently, I'm the executive director of the agency, but I've always worked in human services fields with youth, teens, and adults. But it's through that work, the listening to individuals and families, the understanding their concerns and their dreams, then working to find solutions or pathways. Yes, that's what is now constituent services, I call it, that brought me to first serve on the school committee and now on the city council. Thank you. I continue to use my skills as a community collaborator, as a grant writer, and my ability to be a creative and flexible thinker to address some of the issues that we have. I am seeking re-election because although we are on the right track and we are doing great things, there's much more work to be done, and my sleeves are already rolled up to get that work done. But thank you for having me tonight.
Thank you very much, Councillor Crowe.
And I kept to my time, I'm sure.
You did, and I really appreciate it. Now, we're going to introduce Ward 3 candidate Glenn Curtis for his opening statements. All right, my apologies. We will go to Glenn once Glenn is able to, oh, let me do that. All right, awesome, thank you.
All right, I'm back.
Awesome, let's go.
Hello? Okay, can we hear me?
We can hear you just fine.
Okay. All right, hi. I'm Glenn Curtis, candidate for Ward 3 Councillor. I've been in Malden for close to 30 years now. You know, my wife and Irene, we've raised 3 amazing children. My son Paul, you know, all 3 of my children have gone to Malden schools, and now my son's in the Coast Guard. I'd like to say hello to my son. You know, him and his whole crew are watching. How you doing, Paul? Be safe. I'd like to say hello to my daughter, Mackenzie. She's in the Navy. She also got her commission to watch her father. Kenz, I love you guys. My 3rd child, Brennan, just graduated this year. He's going to be attending Bridgewater State. I have a local business. You know, we've been in Malden for a long time. You know, I have a lot of pride in Malden. You know, I think this is one of the greatest places to live around this area. I mean, it's centrally located, blah, 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 and it's just a bunch of amazing people. And just being here for 30 years, I've seen the city grow and turn around, and just the community outreach. You know, I've coached, you know, if you're 21 right now to 18, there's a 95% chance, you know, that I've coached 95% of your children. And, you know, I'm proud of that. You know, I love giving back. You know, I think everybody should step up and just do that little bit extra, and then everything in the city would, you know, just be a lot easier and a lot nicer, and people get along, you know, together a lot better with just a little bit of communication. The reason why, my main concern, why I'm running for council, and I'm going to show you right now. I literally live the last street before the Malden Hospital, and since I moved into the house, and for the past 20 years, this, if you can see it, is what I stare at, okay? It's been vacant. It's a waste of land. It's a waste of resources and a waste of taxpayers' money. We should be developing this. We should be utilizing this, and this is my main reason why. Again, this is what I walk out in the morning, I see the Malden Hospital. I come home at night, I see the Malden Hospital. I was born in the Malden Hospital, and I do not want to see that hospital before I die. It's still there. So my main goal is to make sure we can find a way to come together with Hallmark Health, with the city of Medford, with the city of Malden, and we can put something in there that will help this city thrive, because I think this is a tremendous place to live. And if you don't live here and you're watching this, I think you should be getting in now. Well, the going is good. With that said, I'd like to, you know, just first off, I'd like to say I'm not a politician. I'm a hardworking father of 2. You know, I go to work every day. You know, I come home and it was either with sports or it was this or it was that. But now that my children are older, now I have a chance to give back to the community in a fashion where it can make a difference. And hopefully I can make that difference in Malden, where, you know, we could find something at the Malden Hospital that will work for everyone. I mean, I have a few ideas. I don't want to get into that in my open statement, but, you know, just know that once I'm in, and if you elect me, there will be never once a time where I'm not working hard and giving you 100%. Even if I don't have the answer, I'm going to call someone that has the answer or can get you an answer, so you're never left in the dark. I'm always going to be there for you. I live across the street, so the hospital isn't going anywhere, and neither am I. So until that thing comes down, I'm going to be fighting for us. Is that my time? Is that what you're looking for?
Sorry to bother you, Glenn, but your time is up. We are going to move on.
Thank you very much.
Of course. Thank you, Glenn. We're going to move on to the next candidate, which will be Amanda Linehan. Go ahead and bring her up. Awesome.
Great. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Okay, wonderful. So thank you, Uma, for hosting, and to all the residents watching. And also just congrats to each and every candidate for running and for stepping up. I think tonight is a wonderful opportunity to connect with voters, get to know one another. And I really appreciate all the work that's gone into this event, and I hope it increases voter knowledge and also that it drives a great turnout on election day. So my name is Amanda Linehan, And I am so, so proud to serve as your Ward 3 City Councilor. When I got sworn into office in January of 2020, there was no way anybody could have predicted what kind of year was ahead of us. It was profoundly challenging as a time to come in as a new councilor. And to be honest, I grieved very deeply the loss of community events and all of those one-on-one connections and in-person meetings that I had envisioned my whole campaign year as a way of getting to know people and to hear the issues that were important to people as their, new councilor. But Malden, as most of us know, is amazingly resilient. And even when we couldn't gather together for coffee or bubble tea or bring our neighbors together hundreds at a time for our annual community meeting or 4th of July party, still we banded together in ways that I will never forget and that honestly I am still inspired by. To take one example, I'll never forget the weeks when we started forming Malden Neighbors Helping Neighbors, which is our amazing mutual aid network. I cherish the memories of calling hundreds of our seniors together to check in on them, to deliver them toilet paper or Malden trash bags, Easter dinner, Thanksgiving dinner, Mother's Day flowers, holiday gift baskets, and so on. I'm still amazed that when I, as a new councilor, pitched this crazy idea of starting a new holiday drive to bring presents and winter coats and grocery gift cards to thousands of Maldonians, that hundreds of people stepped up and there was this super strong response from local businesses and residents that we could barely keep up with the donations and had to work back-to-back 12-hour days to make sure everything got delivered for people's holiday dreams to come true. We even found ways to socially distance and create new community traditions in Ward 3 these past 2 years. I'm thinking of things like our Lantern Walk, our Fall Pumpkin Festival, the summer movie night that we just held at Amridge Field, and our community walking outdoor art show. I'm running for re-election because I love this job and I love our city, and we have so many exciting things planned for our neighborhood. We have gotten a lot done together these last 2 years, from paving miles of roadway across the ward to planting new trees, fixing gas leaks and removing lead pipes, investing in our parks, making it safer to walk and bike to work and school. I've just been so impressed by the ways that our community has come together, and I know we're just getting started. Just this month, we kicked off a $300,000 project to rehabilitate Fellsmere Park and Pond. And in another few weeks, we're going to begin a master plan for Patchell Park over in Oak Grove. Thanks to a CPC grant, we're starting the process of trying to reopen our Oak Grove community building. And most exciting of all for me, we're about to turn the Malden Courthouse, which is now closed, into a center for arts and culture that the whole city can enjoy. Of course, the top issue on everyone's mind is the future of Malden Hospital, and I am very pleased to be able to announce that I have secured a promise from Melrose Wakefield to create several acres of new open space on the site with an inclusive community engagement process coming this year. After sitting vacant for 20 years, Malden Hospital will be torn down, and we expect Melrose Wakefield to share a plan for new structures on that site that are consistent with existing uses in the area very soon, possibly as soon as the next few weeks. We will not be building any housing or schools on the site, and most importantly, the community is going to have a say in what happens there. I've loved working hard for you these last 2 years, and I look forward to earning your vote.
Sorry, I'm gonna have to interrupt you there. My apologies. Time is up.
Thank you. Sorry, I couldn't see you. I couldn't tell if you were.
Oh, it's okay.
Can you just actually say how you're signaling the time? Because I was kind of nervous that I was missing that.
Oh, my apologies. I come into the frame here.
Okay, perfect. I'll try to be more careful next time. Thanks, Guillermo.
Of course. Now we will have Ward 4 candidate Jeffrey Donahue. So I'm going to bring him up. Hello, Jeff. Are you ready?
I love Zoom. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you just fine.
Thank you,
Time is
Guillermo.
yours. Enjoy your opening statement.
Thank you. And thank you guys for doing this. I obviously prefer debate, but I understand with everything that's going on right now, why we're doing this forum. And I guess any kind of, hold on, I'm blocked here. Any kind of dialogue is great. I think a lot of people in the community need to hear what's going on. For those who don't know me, my name is Jeffrey Donahue, 54 years old, lifetime Malden resident. I have 3 children, Sean, Olivia, and Bryn, that all attended Malden schools. I attended Malden schools. My wife attended Malden schools. My father, grandfather, 5th generation Maldonian. Why am I running? Well, I was on the council from 2000 to 2008. 2004 council president, voted in unanimously by my colleagues. And I just see a lot of the stuff that's going on in the council right now with our ward councilor, very divisive behavior. There's a lot of hot button issues that people seem kind of leery to bring up because you don't know the reaction you're going to get. And I don't think that's how it's supposed to work. And I was comfortable sitting home, sitting on my couch, watching these meetings, and it gets to the point where you're looking at it and saying, is this where we're going as a community? You know, do I want a bus lane going from Malden Station up to Sonny's Car Wash? Do I want properties being taken in Oak Grove to tie the strand from Melrose to Malden Square? I live in Malden Square. I've been in Malden Square for 43 years. I do not want to see my children riding their bicycles through Malden Square. I live here. I drive through there every morning. You cannot even drive through there at sometimes a day. Double parking everywhere. The roads are terrible down there. And yet this is what we're focusing on. There's bigger issues. There's police and fire that we need to focus on. I mean, I know there's a lot of money coming from the federal government soon that we have to divvy up, but I mean, we have 4 police officers traditionally covering the whole city at night. Someone needs to address that. We need some new equipment down at the fire station now. I know there's a pump up probably coming, but these are the issues that affect people when they walk out their door. You can't sit here and play a game of gotcha up there and file and FOIA request. And the thing that I find really troubling is the day that I announced I was running, the day I turned my papers in, Councillor O'Malley filed a FOIA request on me, seeing if anyone from the city, any department head, anyone that works in anywhere up there has sent me any emails. And I saw him and I said, listen, if you have any questions, you can ask me. And sure as can be, no questions for you. When he was first elected, I sat down with him and I said, I gave him a line that Councillor Finn gave me back in the day. I said, if one fails, we all fail. If there's anything I can help you with, I want to see the community strive. I said, I don't know everything. I was on the council for 8 years, but I have some institutional knowledge that I'll share with you. Didn't want any of it. And that's fine. Everyone has to kind of create their own path. But if you can't get 5 councilors to vote for you for council president, how are you going to get, and that was twice, how are you going to get 8 to get something done? Our ward has suffered immensely. And, you know, everyone, you know, we got 4 miles of streets and sidewalks done. Well, let's be clear. They always do the oldest neighborhoods first. And the mayor kind of drives that. It's a great tagline. And I'll tell you, I was guilty of using it in the past before. But then once I realized it's going to happen regardless. There's bigger issues. There's people that really have concerns. They don't feel like they're being represented. And I think it's time for a change. And I think I can bring that representation with a pragmatic approach and respect and dignity and bring that back to Ward 4. Thank you.
Thank you very much. As you can tell, your time is near done. So thank you, Jeff.
Yeah.
We'll bring you back during the question portion. Now I will be bringing incumbent city councilor for Ward 4, Ryan O'Malley. So I'm going to bring him up and he will have time to make his introductory statements, and should he choose, address anything that was mentioned there. Hello, Councillor O'Malley. Are you available and or ready?
Hello, can you hear me okay?
Yeah, I can hear you just fine. The floor is yours.
Awesome, thank you. Hi everyone, my name is Ryan O'Malley. I'm your Ward 4 City Councilor. I'd like to thank UMA and MATV for hosting us tonight. I'd also like to thank the Chamber of Commerce, the Greater Malden Asian American Community Coalition, the Advocate newspaper, and students from Malden High School for providing tonight's questions. As a proud product of Malden Public Schools, it has been an honor serving Ward 4 and the Greater Malden community. Now, as my opponent has tried to portray me, he'll try to portray me as someone who doesn't collaborate. We all know that that just is not true, because we've accomplished so much together in the last 5 years. We now have public comment at city council meetings. We've removed over 1,000 lead lines. All one has to do is look at Malden Center to see the fruits of our labors. Now, we haven't done this alone. Community groups like Malden Arts have brought public art, murals, and sculptures to Malden. Malden Neighbors Helping Neighbors carried our community through the worst of the pandemic. And I am proud to support the hard work of Malden Police, Elliott Human Services, and Malden Overcoming Addiction in their collaboration as they address mental health and substance abuse crises our community is facing. This election is a pivotal moment for Malden. We are still battling a historic public health crisis, and we as a city cannot afford to move backwards. My opponent had over 8 years to accomplish his goals, but he couldn't deliver. Together, we can move Malden forward. We can continue to move Malden forward. But it's going to take experienced leadership and a bold vision to get the job done. If re-elected to the Malden City Council, I will focus on the following: protecting public assets, including parks, schools, and other public buildings. We will continue to invest in our infrastructure, our water pipes, our natural gas lines, our roads, and our sidewalks, including safe roads for all users, pedestrians, motorists, and cyclists. I will hold government accountable by exposing corruption and ethics violations each and every time I see them. I will support affordable homeownership opportunities so that you can age in place and not be displaced. Together, we can grow the local Malden economy by 2,500 new jobs by 2025, 25 by 25. With my experience in leadership, we can achieve these bold visions together. I just want to thank you. Again, my name is Ryan O'Malley, and I'm your Ward 4 City Councilor.
Thank you so much, Ryan O'Malley. We will now be entering our question portions of the evening. Mind you, unlike the opening statements, questions are 2 minutes each. And we're gonna go ahead and proceed with Councillor Head Crow one more time for Ward 1. I will read you the question, and then you can take your 2 minutes to answer it. I will then proceed with other candidates from Ward 3, then Ward 4. I'm gonna bring you up. Hello, Councillor Crow. I'm gonna ask you to unmute. Awesome. So this question comes from The Advocate. There have been many statements and references to residents of the city of Malden uniting and coming together since COVID-19, the pandemic that has since shaped all of us. For some time now, there's been some harsh, divisive rhetoric, opinions, and statements predominantly on social media. Do you believe there is a sense of unity or not in the city of Malden? And what value do you place on promoting and supporting unity in this community? What would you do if elected this year to seek out that unity? Thank you.
Thank you for the question. Boy, right out of the gate there. I do believe that there's lots of unity in the social media part. I think legislating and in sound bites is not the way to go, which you see a lot of. It's getting information out there, but it seems to have gone down that road, which I do think divides us. Because even if someone asks you a question, by the time that you answer the question, it's 6 million comments before them, and it kind of loses its train, and it's not a real conversation. We need to get back to having real conversations. I think over the summer when they did the summer festivals, at first I thought, oh my goodness, one every other week, that they're just going to be petered out, but they only got bigger and stronger. They were different. They were engaging. You had real conversations, and I feel like we need to listen. We're not listening. So as people talking, we're not listening. We're all just throwing in, words at the same time. I am all for unity. I am all for figuring out how we all work together for a common good to move things forward. And I do think having festivals, when we do, even as Councilor Linehan mentioned, the 4th of July things, you have conversations. The kids are playing, but you kind of talk, and once a person is a person, not just the neighbor that you've never met, you don't see. You kind of understand once you hear them and what their concerns are, whether it be around city issues, personal issues, feeling the cultural issues that are not being met, lots of other things. You really get to make a difference
My apology. Thank you. Is all the time for that question. Thank you very much. We will go ahead and return to you for the second question. Thank you, Councillor Crowe.
Thank you.
So we're gonna have the same question for Councillor Amanda Linehan. I'm gonna bring her up. Hello there. I'm gonna see if I can get you to unmute.
Thank you very much.
Hello, so I'm gonna reread most of that question. Do you believe that there's a sense of unity or not in the city of Malden? What value do you place on promoting unity and supporting unity as a candidate? And what would you do to do so if elected again this year?
Great, thank you for repeating that. Absolutely, I place a high value on unity. You know, I think one of the strengths of our council as a body is that we all don't agree. I think, you know, the residents don't elect us to have the same perspective. I bring, you know, my life as a working mom and all the things that I do for a living to the table. And I think that I have learned how to value a lot what other people's perspectives are, even though I don't walk in the same shoes. I would say as the only new counselor to come on this past session, you know, I leaned heavily on my colleagues' advice to tell me sort of how to succeed. You know, I might have thought I knew a lot about the city, but every problem that came up from a constituent those first 6 to 8 months is so unique. And honestly, without the support of colleagues, I wouldn't have been able to solve those things without the relationships that you build with department heads. Plunging into the world of Zoom, of course, made that tremendously challenging. We all lost the opportunity to chit chat in the hallway beforehand or to grab coffee or a drink after. And I really felt like a lot of those relationships for me were sort of a year delayed, and I've been working overtime to try to rebuild those personal connections so that I can do my job better. I do put a lot of value on outreach across platforms. I don't think we can only rely on social media. But the reality today is that when I put something out on Facebook, it reaches over 3,000 people. Those are not all the people that I represent, but it's a significant portion. So you have to pair that with that shoe leather work of going door to door, flyering for events, holding events in whatever safe way that we can, and just listening and learning from colleagues and constituents. So absolutely, I place a huge value on that unity. And those are just some of the ways that I'm trying to build that as I enter my second term.
Thank you very much, Councillor Linehan. So just to remind everyone at home as well as the participants in the Zoom, whenever I pop up on the spotlight with you, that means you have 30 seconds left, and then I'll be able to flag you down when it's time to stop talking. Thank you, Councillor Linehan. The same question will go to your opponent, Glenn Curtis. I'll go ahead and bring Glenn up now. Thank you so much. Glenn, I'm going to ask you to unmute. Awesome. Glenn can, yep, you should be able to talk, Glenn.
Yep, I can.
Awesome. So let me reread that question again for you. Do you believe that there's a sense of unity or not in the city of Malden? And what value do you place on promoting unity in the community? Finally, what would you do if elected this year to pursue that mission? Thank you.
Thank you. So unity, I believe unity is huge. I mean, I have, you know, with my children, I said I coach, you know, I have friends from, you know, when we started coaching T-ball, and this camaraderie of, you know, helping out and everything brought us all together. And, you know, 20 years later, you know, I could still make a phone call. And if I needed something, you know, that community that I was involved with, sports and everything else, would come together. For example, you know, we had a little boy in Malden, you know, he got sick, he had, you know, cancer, and then it passed from it. So, you know, a couple of the coaches started a league. We started giving money to the Jimmy Fund, and then when he passed, you know, we decided to step it up, and we came together for Forever 9. That was our organization where we, you know, we raised, I believe we raised the most amount of money in a single day in Malden history to give to, you know, a charity of the mother's picking that would help children with cancer. And just that unity right there blew me away, realizing that, you know, you're giving something and you're not looking for anything in return. But when asked, it's just amazing outpour of how many people wanted to help, knowing that the little boy was from Malden, knowing, you know, the community, the unity that we all had. Everybody was willing to help out, and it was just a successful day. You know, we ran it for about 10 years, and then, you know, it got tough on everyone and things happened. But if I was elected, you know, barbecues, fundraisers, is that my time? You're on? Okay.
You
All
still
right,
have
thank
30
you.
seconds.
All right. You know, to sum it all up, you know, meet people, come out, you know, I know it's COVID, but, you know, actual face-to-face talk to residents, make sure everyone has a voice. You know, not everyone uses social media. So bringing people together like the seniors, they don't have social media.
Resilience. So I'm hopeful that some of that state ARPA money will also be made available for
My
projects
apologies.
we're talking about tonight.
Done. All right, you may proceed. My apologies. You can have some of that time back.
Okay, so again, you know, bring in, you know, outreach, you know, actually physically meeting people. I know it's tough with COVID, but, you know, just face to face is how I've always been. That's how, you know, we run the business. It's just hands-on, a smile, and it is only up from there. You get to know the person that you're talking to, and that's what I'm really big on. Thank you.
Thank you very much. All right, so we're going to proceed with Councillor O'Malley with the same question. I'm going to bring him up now. All right, Councillor O'Malley, I'm going to see if you're unmuted. And
Thank you very much, Guillermo.
awesome. Would you need me to repeat the question again, or do you have
No, I am good. I definitely know what the question is. I do appreciate that, though.
All right, the floor is yours.
When I joined the city council in 2016, the city council, unfortunately, was very divided and very dysfunctional. But coming together with my colleagues, including Councillor Crow, we were able to put an end to that in 2017. Malden is more united now than it has ever been. You know, we are unified against government corruption. We are unified against City of Malden officials breaking the law and stealing public tax dollars from us. This is something that was happening before 2016. It was not uncommon for you to read in the newspaper how public officials were stealing our tax dollars. It was so bad that we didn't even know how much money they were stealing from us. So I think the residents of Malden are definitely unified when it comes to this. We're also unified against xenophobia. We are unified against racism and homophobia, Islamophobia, anti-Semitism. The city of Malden is a beautiful community. And for people who are you know, losing power because their politics is no longer palatable for the vast majority of Maldonians, to portray what's currently going on in our community as divisive, it's not truth. It's not truth. And truth over lies is what is going to change our community. It's what the community of Malden is going to vote for in November. So I do think we are very united, and I look forward to serving in November. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor O'Malley. So we're going to bring on Jeff Donahue, opponent in Ward 4. So I'm going to bring up Jeff Donahue on now. Hello there.
Thank you.
Do you need the question repeated, or?
No, I'm good. I'm good. Thank you.
Thank you.
Community, united, unity. Walk out your front door. You see it every day. Look at the things that they've just done down at Pearl Street Stadium with first responders. We have another thing this weekend down Linden Park at 11 o'clock for first responders. You take Joe Levine, who does the summer basketball leagues. You take all the coaches that go down and do soccer nights. The unity is here. You just have to go find it. You know, you have to walk out your front door. I know the guy that makes my coffee in the morning. I know the kids that go to school with the children that go to school with my kids. It's there if you want it. Sitting behind the keyboard, you talked about the social media earlier, sitting behind the keyboard with inflammatory comments. Yeah, it happens. I mean, it's very hard to bring up an issue. I try and keep politics off of my regular Facebook, my campaign Facebook. I'll stick to the issues, but I don't go back and forth with that dialogue. It doesn't do anyone any good. And Malden has made strides in the last 20 years on how far we've come to be unity, to have unity. For people to sit there and say there's divisiveness and I save the council, I really find that troubling, because the divisiveness starts in Ward 4. I mean, you're talking about how we brought this council back. You have filed FOIA requests on almost every one of your colleagues, and you say city officials are stealing money. No, these are city employees, not city officials. Let's be realistic here. I've not seen anybody on the city council get indicted for stealing money. You know, to sit here and say that we brought this government back to where it needs to be and I'm not palatable. I lost by 4 votes against Jim Nesta. That's hardly your community telling me they don't want you. When you and I ran head to head, it was 30 votes. But since that time, the divisiveness that has gone on has affected our ward and our constituents. We need representation that can foster relationships, work with other councilors, and get things done.
Thank you very much, Jeff. We're going to proceed to our next question. So let me remove, oh, not that, there you go. So we're going to proceed with a second question that was submitted by the Malden Chamber of Commerce. There has been some controversy with Mystic Valley Regional Charter School, the local charter school in the city of Malden, and especially that the charter school system wants to expand into the Maplewood section. While we at UMA are aware that this issue may not be particular to your ward, it is very much the case that eventually you may be voting on this issue. So the question is, what do you believe ought to be next steps regarding the expansion of the Mystic Valley Regional Charter School into the Maplewood section? I'm gonna proceed and invite Councillor Peg Crow back to answer that question, and then we will proceed with the other candidates.
So I go first at every question, I guess.
I suppose so, at least for now.
I think that was a shock when that came out in the paper about the in Maplewood Square to all of us. I don't know anybody that had any inkling that this was even for sale or going to be for sale. So I think that was not a good day, not a good day. I do think that it's not a good fit actually there. I do think the city really does need to look at what we can do to stop this, or at least help, if we cannot stop this, help make it that it is palatable, however we have to work that. I think Councillor Winslow has been working on some of the other things that we can do, because, you know, really the charter school going into there, it's not just the charter school, but in that location really does have a lot of effects on you know, public safety and, you know, the elderly building. We heard those concerns about the 630 Salem Street. And then, you know, really we have the square, but it's nice. It's one of the last real squares that you could go down and, you know, get your pants hemmed and pick up some muffins and, you know, have a cup of coffee and get things done. And so I think we want to preserve as much as we can of those squares. I'd love to revitalize some of our other squares, but I think really to the question is we have to see what all the tools that we have and use them to make it for a better Malden, not a better charter school.
Thank you very much, Councillor Crow. We are now going to proceed with Glenn Curtis with the same question until I'm gonna go ahead and pull him up. Glenn Curtis, because Amanda Lenahan went last time, we're gonna rotate to Glenn Curtis. All right, Glenn. All right, let me see if you're unmuted. All right, Glenn, you're free to go.
Okay. Let's start off with, you know, state law basically says that churches and schools don't need permitting. So, I mean, it's not a matter of, you know, voting on it. They have the right. But what they don't have the right is to put it into a neighborhood that doesn't want it, doesn't need it. Not everyone agrees with the charter school, but you're trying to force it in on someone. And I'd be willing to back whatever council it was, you know, deemed to be, you know, put in, that I would back them, and whatever the constituents in that, you know, ward, you know, I would back whoever councilman, whatever councilman it's not about us. It's about the people of the city. I mean, there's no I in team. It's about making the city of Malden better, a better place to live, giving our children every opportunity that's possible, and moving on from there. I mean, as councilman, I mean, I'm looking in from the outside and I'm seeing everybody divided. I mean, we're all talking about the same city that we all live in. Everyone has a house here. Everyone has a stake in this. So I don't understand where the animosity, the fighting, everybody should be working together. I get it's politics. And again, I said, I'm not a politician. So again, I'm coming in from the outside, but the way I'm looking at it is, run the city like a business. I mean, what makes sense in the red and what doesn't, you shouldn't be, forcing people to do it. I mean, okay, everybody, thank you.
Well, thank you, Glenn. All right, so we're gonna proceed with Amanda Linehan, and I'm gonna re-ask the question while I find her. So the question is, there is going to be Mystic Valley Regional Charter Schools wanting to expand into the Maplewood section. What is your assessment of this expansion?
Great, thank you. Yeah, I do believe that issues that happen in other wards are appropriate for all councilors to talk about. I think it's our duty to have our finger on the pulse of what's going on around the city, especially something as impactful as this. I'm a proud public school parent. My daughter goes to the BB school. She's in 3rd grade there, but we have a lot of friends and I have a lot of constituents that go to Mystic Valley. And, my concern over how this has gone down is, more about the example that it sets for how you negotiate with the community. It's not good for the students and it's not good for the square. We talked about unity a few minutes ago, and I think about the meeting that we had with counselors from all different wards from all across the community coming together at the Salemwood School this summer to listen to resident concerns and get a feel for what their fears are around this impact that's going to happen to Maplewood. We also have a city master plan that looks for a city of squares, and this runs completely contrary to that. I know we do have this state law, this Dover Amendment, that gives schools a bit more leeway in where they cite themselves, but we do have rights around things like traffic mitigation and other things. And I think that we need to use our leverage on the things that are within our control, and also hopefully get on a better path with how we speak to the school so that we can have a civil conversation with them moving forward and not have things go the way that they've gone. Finding out on Facebook, it's not great if you're a city councilor, and that's what happened in this case. So hopefully we can move onward and upward.
Thank you very much, Councilor Linehan. We're going to proceed with Jeff Donahue. I'm going to see if I can bring you up. Same question. What is your assessment of the expansion into the Maplewood section regarding the Mystic Valley Regional Charter School?
Well, like Councilor Linehan said, finding out about that on social media is kind of like a punch in the gut. But I'm of the opinion, as a ward councilor, you should hopefully have some sort of relationship with the landlords when you have a square like that. I would hope that somebody would have reached out and said, hey, I'm in financial trouble, my building's for sale. And then we would have an opportunity to do that. But I don't think that happened. And that's not the fault of the current councilor down there. Sometimes these things just happen, and the charter school has a lot of money. They know that they're protected by the Dover Amendment, and they know, as Councilor Linehan said, we might go after them with traffic mitigation, and they'll use our own traffic against us at all the schools across the city. So it's really hard, and I feel so bad for the businesses down there, but I would hope that somebody, maybe Kevin Duffy or somebody from his office, would step in and try and relocate them. There's some really thriving businesses down there that have made it through the toughest year that we've just had. And to have someone say you have a year or so to try and relocate your business, get it up and running. Hopefully you have parking, because they have great parking behind there. And hopefully you can make it. It's really like starting again, and it's really unfortunate. And I got to say, I'm not shocked by this, because the charter school's been buying up everything around Maplewood for years. So I would hope that, as a ward councilor, if that was going on in my ward, I would hopefully try and get ahead of it and foster some relationships with the community owners down there, the business owners and the building owners, and make sure that, if you're going to sell or you're underwater or things aren't going good, let us work with you. Let somebody from the redevelopment, well, now it's under the city. Let Kevin Duffy's office try and get out there and see if we can find someone to locate into your business that would help you. You know what I mean? You just have to get ahead of it. And unfortunately, they probably blindsided everyone and nobody had a chance to.
Thank you, Jeff Donahue.
You're welcome.
So we're gonna proceed with Ryan O'Malley. And same question, what is your assessment of the expansion to Maplewood, the Maplewood section of Malden? Go ahead.
Thank you, Guillermo. What's happening in Maplewood Square has been in the works for over 20 years. This has been their long-term strategic plan. Now, it's a hostile takeover of a huge portion of our city by a special interest group, which is heavily influenced by and still influenced by its founder, Neil Kinnan, who happens to be working for my opponent's campaign. The city of Malden has lost public school buildings, fire stations, and our parks to this organization. And now we are set to lose some of the best and most thriving businesses in Maplewood Square. These are anchor destinations, restaurants that people go to for I went there for my graduation ceremony. You know, I think that we're losing the character of Maplewood Square because of the actions of this organization. So rather than destroying large swaths of our community, I would hope that the organization would put their resources into providing adequate special education services for their children. They need it. And unfortunately, because they do not provide it, they take them out of the public school system. They throw their life into a whirl. And once they determine that they can't provide those services, they send them back. And that detriments not only their education, but it detriments the school systems that they send from. I hope that they'll change their priorities and focus on their students. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor O'Malley. So now we're going to move to question 3. Question 3 was submitted by Malden High School's Blue and Gold. And it's a very important one. If 80% of students and staff in the Malden Public Schools were vaccinated by November 1st, or are vaccinated by November 1st, and the mask mandate has lifted, these are 2 important conditions. 80% vaccinated, student and staff, and then the mask mandate is lifted. What would be your thoughts on possibly requiring vaccinations in the Malden Public Schools? Now, the candidate that has the privilege of answering that first is Peg Crow. So I'm going to bring her up now, and we're going to see what we have in regards of this answer. Oh, hello there, Councillor Crow.
Wouldn't unmute. So the question is, if the students and staff, there are 80%, a minimum of 80% vaccinated.
Yep, that is correct.
And then the mask mandate is lifted.
Yes.
Should we be instituting a mandatory vaccine?
Yes, according to the question from Blue and Gold, if 80% of students and staff in Malden Public Schools are vaccinated by November 1st, then after that, a mask the mask mandate was lifted. Would you lean towards requiring vaccinations in the Malden Public Schools?
Well, I'm going to say that the Department of Education is looking at the off-road to the mask, and if you're 80%, you can, if your community is 80% or more. Some communities have elected to go higher than the 80%, and then the masks are gone. If the masks were gone, because we have 80%, I think we still have to educate, encourage. At that point, unless there was some other variant, some other situations, I don't know if we would be mandating vaccines for the rest. But I do think, as this pandemic has shown every single time you think you have a plan and it's going to go this way, something else comes into it and all those answers kind of change. At the YWCA, during the middle of everything was going on, I would say to people, ask me the question in the morning, you better ask me again later in the day because the answer might change depending on what Governor Baker does, what the Department of Education does, what this group does. And some of the things are out of our hands, and some of the information that we get is not clear. We just want to clear, this is how it goes, and there's all these little offshoots, but it makes it very messy. So I don't think at this point I would be leaning towards a vaccination mandate as long as we had 80% and you could take the masks off if you wanted to. If some other factors come into it, we'd have to revisit that.
Thank you very much. So we'll have the same question, but this time for Councillor Linehan. All right, hello there, Councillor Linehan. Let me see if I can get you sorted. All right, so I'm going to gently repeat the same question. 80% of students and staff are vaccinated by November the 1st. The mask mandate has lifted. Are you going to lean towards proposing the vaccination requirements for the Malden Public Schools?
Well, I guess for me, a critical question here is if we're talking about 80% vaccinated across the district, because of course, as a parent of an 8-year-old, I'm in the boat of having someone ineligible by age to get the vax right now in my house, which changes the calculus of how I think about everything. But let's say we're talking about, a world where under 12 has the vaccine and we somehow have reached 80% vaccination. It's then up to parents whether they want a mask or not. I think that we could adopt a model where we either have vaccination or regular testing. I think that's in line with what other public employees are being asked to do. I work for the state. We are required to be vaccinated before we can go back to work in person. But I know there are some offices where if you do not get vaccinated, if you're subject to regular testing, then you're still eligible to work. I think the public health metrics show that that is still a safe approach. My focus, I guess, right now is on what testing infrastructure we have in place, because at this point, I think we're still rolling out our pool testing and our test and stay procedures in the public schools. So we're not 100% where we need to be in terms of having the data that we want. And then I think our health director has indicated that 80% is really the basement of where we want to be in terms of herd immunity. So 80% vax still feels honestly a little low. I don't know if higher is truly attainable, but I think to be safer, we'd be closer to 90%. So I would say that we could do a vaccine mandate or regular testing. I would be comfortable with that scenario.
Thank you very much, Councillor Linehan. The same question will go to Glenn Curtis. Let me pull Glenn up. All right. All right, Glenn. So 80% of staff and student, are we leaning towards requiring vaccinations in the Malden Public Schools once a mask mandate is lifted?
Okay, so here's where I'm going to stand. I mean, as a parent, I mean, every parent wants the best for their child. Okay, so I can't give you a definitive answer. One, because all the stats from the CDC on out, everything. I mean, it's a tough situation where you want to do the right thing for your child and the community, but it's also your child and all the testing hasn't been in. So I mean, it's basically, I mean, I would leave it up to the parents' decision. I mean, because I mean, someone could just turn around and say, it's a religious thing. So now there's your loophole. So now because they're using religion, that doesn't give them the right, but why, blah. I mean, everybody's going to go back and forth on it. So, I mean, again, I would leave it up, I would basically tell you, as a parent, you're doing the best for your child and what you believe in your heart to do, I would support you. I mean, again, I mean, unless there was 100% proof that the vaccine works and it's 100% safe and there'll be no side effects 10 years down the road, I'd say, you know what, everyone needs the shot in Malden. But that's not the case, and they don't have the proof for that. So, I mean, as a person looking from the outside in, I would probably be on the fence, you know, either way on a person's decision, because again, it's not my child. I'm not raising that child. Okay. And again, it's their parents and their choice.
Thank you very much, Glenn. Go ahead and proceed now. We're going to proceed with Councillor O'Malley, and then we're going to then move with Jeffrey Donahue before the next question. So let me bring up Councillor O'Malley. So Councillor O'Malley, what are we thinking? Vaccination requirements in the schools following 80% and a mask mandate lift?
I think something that we've learned over the last year or so, or 2 years, is that elected officials that do not have public health degrees and epidemiological, experience should really not be making these decisions. I would have to say that I would lean on our Board of Health and Dr. Singh to help us get to this correct answer. I would obviously be working directly with Mayor Gary Christensen. He's the chair of the school committee, as well as the school committee here in Malden. This is a decision that I do believe has to be based off of the science and based off of what is in the best interest of our children. I do not have that skill set. I do not have that education to make that decision. I think it would be inappropriate for me to put out any conjecture like that. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much, Councillor O'Malley. I'm going to bring up Jeff Donahue for the same question. All right, Jeff, the floor is yours. I won't repeat the question. I imagine you have it by now.
And thank you. That's probably one of the only times Councillor O'Malley and myself will agree this evening. I'm not going to tell people what to do with their kids. My children are vaccinated by choice. They wanted to get vaccinated, so we did it. If they don't feel safe, they can wear a mask. If your children feel safe, they don't have to wear a mask. 80% is a number that's fine with me. I'm not on the school committee. I'm not going to make these decisions and tell people what needs to be done with their children. Personally, myself, I'm vaccinated, but also I did that for work. Traditionally, I wouldn't have done it. Everyone has a different opinion on that. So the short answer is no. And I'll use the remainder of my time to just address something that Councillor O'Malley said. Councillor Kinnon's working on my campaign. That's a good one. But I think you don't realize that when I was on the council, I went after him vigorously when he was the fire commissioner. And we really don't have an advantageous relationship. But I'll tell you this, you filed numerous complaints against city councils. You stood up in open meetings and said Ward 8 needs better representation. You were the one vote that voted against the confirmation of Anthony Ciccarelli, one of the most well-respected city officials or city department heads that we've had. He's been there for years. You went after John McNaught, the city solicitor, assistant city solicitor, in a public meeting. I watched that. I felt embarrassed for the guy because you went after his character and you got voted down 10-1 by the council. You've had several human resource complaints against you in City Hall. The list just goes on and on. And I'll tell you, you're right. People are working for me, and I can tell you who they are. It's Ryan O'Malley. You are my best campaign manager. You're campaigning for me every day by your behavior, and I want to thank you for that. And I hope the people in Malden see what's really going on. You said you've been there. All right, my time's up. We'll finish this after.
Thank you very much, Jeff Donahue. So we're going to now proceed to our fourth question. And this question was brought to us by the Malden Advocate. And please pay attention. The average listing price for a single family home in Malden has skyrocketed to just under $600,000. That is up nearly 30%. And the rents are following suit. It is getting hard to afford to live in the city of Malden. The city of Malden formerly had the Malden Redevelopment Authority, but now it is the Strategic Office of Development and Planning. So they, as well as the City Council, have all worked to address the issue of affordable housing in the Malden community. The question here tonight, what is your present plan for how you would like the city to proceed on increasing affordable units? I'm gonna proceed with having Councillor Head Crow answer that first question. I know, these softballs. And then we'll proceed with the rest of the candidates with the same question. And right now, it looks as though I have Head Crow. All right.
All right. Well, listen, affordable housing is an issue for so many, as you just said. But affordability is very different for different people under different circumstances. What's affordable to you might not be affordable to me. So it does really require solutions that are multi-pronged. You know, the council took a huge step forward with recently adopting the inclusionary zoning. And honestly, a big shout out to councilors Spatafor and Winslow who led us there. Those two councilors were on part of the team that worked for months on this ordinance, starting with a feasibility study, what was the foundation of the creation of a comprehensive ordinance that passed unanimously. There's been lots of talk about inclusionary zoning, and it's never really gotten to there. I think since I only have limited time, there's a few other things that we've been doing. I think right now, moving forward, one thing that I would like to see more of is I'm committed to creating and preserving more affordable housing. I personally am extremely lucky to have been able to purchase my family home where I still live, and to support affordable home ownership is something I think we should move into. I think I was very pleased with the mayor when he put $4 million into the housing initiatives through the ARPA funding. And I think we should be, going forward, we should be leveraging those funds to gain access to really the federal funding, which is unprecedented. I think the numbers when I look today, 21 billion for emergency rental assistance, 10 billion for homeownerships who are behind in homeowners who are behind in mortgages, another 10 billion for homeless related supports. I think the team, and I believe Councillor Linehan is on that team, really has an important task and make that transformative.
I'm so sorry to interrupt, Councillor Crow. We have to proceed. I apologize. But thank you so much for answering that question. Oh, sorry. All right, so we're going to proceed.
Get us to the front of the line, Councillor.
Sorry about that. So we're going to proceed now with Glenn Curtis with the same question. I'm going to bring him up. In the meantime, I will go ahead and re-ask the question as best as I can until he is ready to come up. Let's see. All right. You'll wait till Glenn is ready. Awesome, awesome. All right, so Glenn, the city of Malden is, through their strategic office and development and planning, has worked to make city of Malden more affordable. If you were to be on the city council, how would you continue to proceed and move forward with these options? There you go. We can hear you.
Okay. All right. So for the first off, you know, the national average, you know, of pricing in, you know, the average price of a home in the U.S. is probably about, I believe it's about $374,000. In Massachusetts, the average is probably about $518,000. Okay, it's a balancing act. I mean, you have money, you don't have money. It's just, you know, there's no way to counteract which way you can go with, you know, the price of a home, the price. I mean, it doesn't matter where you live. Nobody has any money because we're in an economy and it's the pandemic's hit everyone hard, and it's kind of tough to gauge, you know, how you're going to have that money, and then you're going to try and differentiate, you know, the price of a house compared to the price of someone else's house somewhere else. So I mean, it's just a tough situation where, you know, you gotta look to, you know, government I mean, city councilmen, they have basically, I mean, I know that the council, you know, they voted on making affordable housing, okay, great. But until the government steps in and allocates money and helps everybody, it's just, I mean, it's city council. I mean, your hands are tied. Let's be honest. I mean, we're not changing anything unless you have big government helping you.
Thank you very much, Glenn. So we're gonna proceed now with Amanda Linehan. Let me bring her up. Same question. The city of Malden is doing its part in bringing about affordable housing. If you are to be reelected to the city council, how would you proceed with affordability?
Thank you for the question. You know, affordable housing research and policy has been really my life's work. It's a passion for me, and watching the inclusionary zoning not be quite ready a few years ago and fail was honestly one of the big prompts that pushed me into politics. I knew I had to start getting involved if I wanted to change that conversation. I was at that infamous meeting that went till 1 a.m. where it went down in flames and everybody was so crushed. It's a new day in Malden now. Our housing market is a lot hotter. People are more cost burdened, and our poverty rate is actually going up. So the problem's intensifying. And I think even with inclusionary zoning, we are going to have to really lean heavily on this new infusion of federal dollars, this ARPA money that Councillor Crow mentioned. I'm really proud to be chairing the committee that's going to be overseeing how we spend that $4 million. And it's likely to be even more money once we leverage some additional federal funding sources and state programs. What we are going to do is work with our CPC and our Affordable Housing Trust Fund to focus on two things: creating affordable home ownership opportunities and rehabilitation of vacant, neglected, or abandoned properties that are creating blight and problems around the city. I'm really committed to having an inclusive engagement process that lets regular everyday residents have a say in how we spend that money as well, because I want it to be, you know, gut checking us and have it be a legitimate process. We're currently seeking one resident volunteer to help sit on that committee. So if anyone's interested, please let me know. But I think what we really need to do is ground our policy approach in real data and, you know, get real about the fact that our housing market is intense right now. And if we want to prevent homelessness and evictions and more displacement, then we need to put some real dollars to that. And I think we have a transformational opportunity with this ARPA money coming to the city right now.
Thank you very much. That was just on time. So thank you very much, Councilor Linehan. I'm gonna now remove you. Now we're gonna ask the same question, or we're gonna allow the same question to be answered by Jeff Donahue. I'm gonna bring him up. Hello, Jeff. So the city of Malden is trying to tackle affordability. If you are elected to the city council, how would you proceed with this mission?
I think we do our part with 40B compared to the communities around us. But as people have said, the recovery money that's coming, I think $12 million of it has to go to revenue replacement. And I think we have $4 million for housing and $4 million for housing or home support. I would kind of look at, I remember when I was on the council, we had the first time home buyers program. I don't know if that's still a program within the city right now, but that was one of those things. You go in, you're 5% down, 5% interest rate for the first 5 years. They help you get off your feet. So, you know, I bought my house here for $400,000 20 years ago. And you know what? 5% down, I could do it. It was manageable. I worry about the kids now. How are my kids going to buy a house? Are they going to make it in Malden? I think when we build buildings and we're charging $2,700, $2,800 for a one-bedroom apartment in Malden Square, I don't see how that helps us. It's market driven. It just keeps sending it up and up and up. I think we have to take a pragmatic approach and just kind of see where we can put that money and what programs we can do. Can we assist homeowners legally or home buyers legally by giving them money from the city or a grant or something like that? There's a lot of ways you can do it. And now that the redevelopment authority is under the city, and truth be told, I said that 20 years ago. I always thought it should have been a city department, and I am so excited that that has happened. But what I do on my behalf, I've probably gotten over 100 men and women in this community into different trades. It gives them a living wage. It gives them something where, you know, if the time is right and you can pull the trigger, you can afford that property. We've got to start propping up our young kids in this community. College isn't for everyone. There's a lot of money out there with the trades, and it affords you the ability to be in a better place to buy a house when the time is right. but I'm willing to work with anyone and try and get some solutions done, especially the new department. Sorry.
Thank you very much, Jeff. And now we're gonna proceed with Councillor O'Malley with the same question. I'm gonna bring him up. And now there you are, Councillor O'Malley, the floor is yours.
Thank you. It's appropriate that my opponent ended with the word sorry. I accept his apology. You know, this election, we deserve truth over lies. And unfortunately, my opponent is just spewing lies left and right. The residents of Ward 4 know it. The people of Malden know it. And they're not going to fall for your lies in November. You know, you said 20 years ago that that MRA should have been part of the department of the city. Well, guess what? I was the lead sponsor of that, and we got it done. I got it done with my colleagues. It was a unanimous vote. Now, in my opponent's history on the council, when he was, for the 8 years that he was there was an infamous scheme going on in our community where certain well-connected people in different departments and different elected officials would use the building department to assess a ton of fees on immigrant families and people who could not afford to keep up their homes. They'd put a ton of fees on them, and then all of a sudden someone would come in, a cash buyer, and would say, hey, I hear you have a lot of fees with the city. I'll give you cash so you can pay off your bill. And then lo and behold, it's all forgiven. It was a scheme that was not acceptable. We should not be eminent domaining people's properties to take them and flip them for elected officials' benefit. That is not how you solve homelessness in our community. The way you solve homelessness is building affordable homeownership opportunities that give people an opportunity to age in place. Affordable homeownership opportunities. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor O'Malley, for that question. We are now going to proceed with our fifth question. And this question was brought to us by Malden High School's Blue and Gold. Now, I provided the context, but the question is theirs. So last year, for Unite 2020, the mayor of Malden declared racism a public health crisis. Do you candidates believe that racism is a threat to the public health and safety? And how does this impact Malden? I'm gonna, again, bring on Peg Crow to answer this question. No pressure. And here you are. Hello, Councillor Crow, can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Awesome. The
I
floor
always
is yours.
say, since we're Ward 1, I'm number 1, but I didn't really want to do that. I'm just kidding. Yes, it was declared racism is a public health crisis. I absolutely do believe that the mission of the YWCA is to empower women and eliminate racism. And we do that we're a smaller YWCA, but we do that through some of our programs and just really working with the families that we have and ensuring that they get all their needs met, that they understand that they're treated with respect, that if they find issues, we work with them to get through the issues and identify it. You have to call it out, you have to identify it. And it's a lot more work. It goes to really the diversity in Malden, which is a wonderful thing. But even around diversity, equity, inclusion, and racism, it's not something that you do. You have it done, and then you move on to something else. It is something that we need to continuously do better, each and every one of us. And we need to start somewhere. And I think for the diversity, equity, inclusion, the mayor hiring Vivios LaRochelle is a great start. I know that the department heads have been doing they had some trainings. There were multi-tiered trainings, multi-pronged, multi-hours. And I believe next week starts some of the staff. But I think we really need to get the education. We have to have the real conversations around race and racism, around systemic racism, around all of those things. We've done a little bit of that, but it really is going to take that we need to pull the curtain down, take a real good look at it, and really figure out how we're going to move it forward, because it is a public health crisis.
Thank you very much, Councillor Crow. We're now going to move to Councillor Linehan for the same question. I'm going to bring her up now. All right, Councillor Linehan, the floor is yours.
Thanks, Guillermo. Yes, I absolutely do agree. I think, you know, I consider myself very lucky. Where I work, we've for years been a leader in, you know, diversity and equity work in Massachusetts, and I've learned a lot from the racial bias training that I've undergone there. And I, as a result of that, really do believe that the public sector is both capable and up to the challenge of baking this into their practices, and that Malden, in fact, could be a leader in this work too. I know we have our schools and our city hall, where our staff right now is not yet representative of the city as a whole. We've made great strides, as Councillor Crowe mentioned, in hiring a DEI coordinator. I was instrumental in pushing for a higher salary and title grade for that position. I'm very much looking forward to a report out from her on, you know, what's been done so far and how we as a council can better support her with resources and learn more about what data and training she's done and what we can expect in the coming years. I think there's always room to improve. I personally, as a white woman, have seen the deep value in undergoing racial bias training. It's absolutely illuminating. It's a learning experience, and it would make any public sector employee better at their job. I think language access is another piece of this that we need to be talking about. It's not just throwing money at one DEI position and calling it a day. I think we need to build on what we've done, translating our election ballots and bringing a multilingual staffer into the clerk's office. We probably need to do more to outreach for multilingual poll workers. I would be supportive of paying them more if necessary to enhance that recruitment. But just really across the board, I'd even like to see our council do a little bit more in terms of translating our agendas and enhancing language access for the diversity of our residents to have access to our meetings too.
Thank you very much, Councillor Linehan. We're now going to proceed with your opponent, Glenn Curtis. So I'm going to see if I can bring Glenn up. Awesome. All right, Glenn, the floor is yours.
Can you repeat the question one more time, please?
Of course.
You know what
So the mayor of Malden declared last year that racism is a public health crisis as part of his Unite Malden 2020 initiative. Do you as a city council candidate believe that racism is a threat to the public health and safety of the city of Malden? And how do you feel, or do you believe that this impacts Malden?
I mean, I believe that I believe we're the fourth in the state in diversity. So, I mean, on a social level, I haven't seen anyone, you know, I haven't seen Malden in the news. I haven't seen, you know, outcries of this one doesn't like me, this one, this. Listen, it comes down to, it's simple. Treat everyone the way you would like to be treated. And I think, you know, with open communication, racism, it's not learned, it's taught, okay? So until we have better platforms to teach the people that are racist, and some people don't even realize they're racist, okay? It just comes from, you know, years and years of people not saying anything. We live in a generation now where it's okay to be transparent, okay? So I think you need to get to know your neighbors. You need to actually talk to people, okay? And unless we start talking, the world will never change, okay? So I mean, I don't care what kind of law they pass. I said, until the people, everyone, can look everybody in the eye and realize that I want to be treated like a human being, and I'm going to treat you the way I want to be treated, and vice versa, then we can start making strides. Until then, I mean, everyone says this, everyone says that, everyone hides behind this, everyone hides behind that, okay? So what I feel is, you know, coaching every kid in Malden, you know, you get to learn and know people, and then you get a rapport. And to this day, I mean, I've coached kids at 5 years old, and I see them, you know, 21 years old out for a bar. Hey, coach, you know, you really changed my life, and you made a big impact on me. And that's basically what you're looking for out of a human being. You're trying to make everybody else better so you can live in a better place to live. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Glenn. We're now going to bring on Councillor O'Malley with the same question. So I'm going to proceed and do that now. All right, Councillor O'Malley, the floor is yours. is racism a public health and safety crisis in the city of Malden?
I think that this is a national, this is a international discussion. Of course, racism is alive and well, unfortunately, in our society, and it is something that does deserve attention. And I am happy that Mayor Christensen did make this statement and put it out. But we do. It needs to be more than words. We got to walk the walk and not just talk the talk. In my time on the council, I've proposed multilingual signage in our brand new city hall. I am of Italian and Irish descent, and I have family members who lived in this country and they immigrated here and they didn't speak English and they were too old to learn it. And they, primarily stayed in, the North End or the West End until it was destroyed, and they lived in the little bubble. That is not how you sow community here. Engagement and the ability for people to be able to engage in our community is crucial. It's also important, like I said, to walk the walk. We've had 2 senior center directors who happen to be the only women of color in our community who have not been reappointed. And I find that trend very, very concerning. I'm particularly concerned with the fact that the last senior center director was not reappointed during a pandemic. I think it was very cruel, and I think we need to do more when it comes to actually supporting our employees of color in this city, particularly women of color. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor O'Malley. We are now going to bring up Jeffrey Donahue. I'm going to bring him up now. All right, thank you, Jeff. The floor is
Thank
yours.
you. Yeah, I think Malden is unique. I think when the mayor brought this statement up, I think it was more a nationwide issue, just showing how important it is for everyone to get involved. But you look at Malden, like Glenn said, we have the 4th most diverse high school in the state. I think we're number 8 for the most diverse community in the state. We do our part. It's great fodder to say, hey, listen, we need to hire more diverse people in City Hall and we need to do this and that. So what do we do with the people that work there? It has to be done by attrition. People have to leave. And then I'm of the opinion you hire the best candidate. You know what? I see my daughter, she's a senior in high school, plays for the soccer team. And my youngest daughter goes to the high school, plays for the volleyball team. I see how these kids interact with each other. I don't think that generation coming up behind us has that. There's a lot of ignorance in this world and it's everywhere. But I think that it's going to cull itself out as people grow and move, as life goes through attrition as well. But Malden, again, is unique. Look at our police department. Look at the way they work with this community. We have one of the best police departments in the Commonwealth. And by the way, I am endorsed by the police department and the fire department. And that's unheard of for a candidate to be endorsed against a seated city councilor. There's a reason, because I see the hard work that they put into the community to work with the kids. You look what Trent Headley's doing with his basketball leagues, with Joe Levine and the fire department doing their days down at the parks, bringing everyone out in the community, their bicycle helmet days where, they want to be part of this community, but they also want to be appreciated by our city officials for the job that they do. So let's think about that. It starts at home. It starts where you are. If you raise your kids right, this goes away.
Thank you very much, Jeff. We're going to proceed with question 6, and it's a little bit on themed. At least Councilor Linehan touched on it. This question is brought to us by GMAC, the Greater Malden Asian American Community Coalition. The city has implemented several messages to improve language access to city services. What, if any, role have you played in these endeavors, and what additional measures would you like to see applied if you are a candidate seeking the seat of city council? I'm going to go ahead and bring up our guest, Peg Crow, again.
Thank you. Thank
You're very
you.
welcome.
And this is an area that we need to focus up on and really have a true plan for the city. I recognize the efforts actually of City Clerk Greg Lucy, who has made great strides and engaging our growing Asian population in the voting process, and including, hiring Crystal Lamb to assist them in that effort. And that was a great move. However, we have to be honest with ourselves. To address this by simply changing signs over departments in a single building and then declare it done doesn't cut it. We owe it to our residents, and we should not allow ourselves to make it such a simple task. Because seriously, I'm going to cut my time short, but seriously, think about it. If we do language access at City Hall, someone comes to City Hall, they were told that nope, that needs to be filed at the police station, that needs to be filed at the school department, and they go there and there is a different system, there is no system. We have failed them. So it needs to be a comprehensive package of how it is in every building. So I think a couple of weeks ago, this language access at City Hall came up at the council in the form of a resolve. And it was discussed that they really need to, that people are looking at a more comprehensive plan. It's in citizens engagement agenda. So I am hoping that they revitalize that and actually put the work in to come up with some solution, because our residents deserve a comprehensive and consistent approach to language access in every building that we have in Malden.
Thank you very much, Councillor Crowe. And now we're going to move to Glenn Curtis. Let me see if Glenn is available. Oh, there he is. Hello, Glenn.
Hello.
Do you need me to read back the question?
Yes, please. We had some technical issues.
Of course. The city has implemented several messages to improve language access to city services. What, if any, role have you played in these endeavors? Or if you are a candidate looking to join the city council, what additional measures would you like to see applied as a candidate?
Okay, so coming in from the outside, I'd like to see, more open communication. I mean, that's the key to everything. Without communication, nothing will get done. So, I mean, until we can build a rapport where everyone can get along and everyone can work together and put the city first and not themselves, things won't change. It's never going to change. There's no I in team. So you need to make sure that everybody is working together, that come to a common goal and have success, and keep that up and keep building on that. And it just keep hammering it home. And then eventually generation after generation will just become instinct. And then that's it. We're just running on, everybody working together. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Glenn. We're now going to bring Councillor Linehan to answer the same question. There you are now. Of course. So do you need me to repeat the question, or are you comfortable?
I'm comfortable. Thanks, Guillermo.
All right. Thank you very much.
So language access is hugely essential for including everyone in our democracy. As a candidate, both this cycle as an incumbent and the first time I ran, I walk the walk. My literature and website are fully translated into numerous languages, and I door knock with native speakers of other languages. I also serve on the Council Citizens Engagement Committee, which, as Councillor Crowe mentioned, is currently taking the lead on this issue. And I know we have the support of the mayor's office in raising these standards. We've been talking about it as recently as this week. I think that signage in City Hall is a great place to start, but we do need to make sure that our school department and our other publicly accessible buildings are in alignment with that accessibility, so that there is a seamless experience for folks whose first language isn't English. In Malden, we are lucky to have the diversity that we have. And I do think it's our duty as councilors to open the doors of government to everyone. I represent a senior housing building that has just in the last 2 years gone over the 50% mark in terms of non-English speaking residents. I represent them and I care about them, and I represent all my constituents who don't speak English. or aren't fluent in English, or even those who can't yet vote. To take one example of how we're addressing this in the ward, just last week, I was on hand at a ribbon cutting at the BB School, where Chinese Culture Connection is going to be having their new language school. And I was really honored to work with the mayor to try to help find them that home in Ward 3. They've been looking for a long time to expand their programming. They also offer after-school programming, the Little Dragons program, where there's Chinese culture and language that's taught. So this is very near and dear to my residents in Ward 3, and I think we've made some real strides both locally and citywide. We always have more work that we can do. I mentioned the poll workers and the election staff. Those are all great things that we've done. And just to reiterate, I would like to see us meet a higher standard for our own selves as a council and our meetings and agendas. We've done great work, always more that we can do, and I'm really wanting to be a part of that.
Thank you very much, Councillor Linehan. And now we're going to go to Ward 4, and we are going to bring up Jeff Donahue. I'll bring him up right now. Thank you, Jeff. The floor is yours.
Thank you, sir. I think this falls on all of us. We need to include our community. We need to reach out. There's a lot of people that are you know, kind of hesitant, scared, not comfortable, embarrassed because they feel like they don't know how to communicate with you. And it's all in how you approach people and how you do it. As for what I've done citywide, on the city side, it's been a long time since I've been up there. So these were issues, but they weren't as prevalent as now. But I know that we have, I want to say on the federal money that we have coming in, I think we have $8 million for water, sewer, and broadband. And I have no idea why we cannot take some of that money, every public building that the city owns. I mean, you can go on Google Translate on any iPad and hit it, and it'll translate any language you want. We should be able to put a small kiosk at the entrance of every building, take that money and put it in there and say, you know, here's your group, here's your language, what are you looking for? Everything should be multilingual from every school, city hall, every office. I mean, is it an expense? Yes, but the time to get this stuff done, you really got to dig in and say, what's important to you right now? We're never going to see money like this again. We have a real opportunity right now to get it right. And when I'm elected to be on the city council, I can guarantee you that that will be one of the biggest earmarked, biggest feathers in my cap. I'll make sure I sit with the mayor and the current council and try and earmark some money to get this done. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Jeff. We're going to proceed with Councillor O'Malley. I'll bring him up right now. Hello, Councillor O'Malley, the floor is yours.
Hello again. So a while back, I was at an API CAN event, and I had heard the saying that language access is as essential as turning on the lights. And this statement has really stuck with me ever since. If you don't turn the lights on, it's very difficult to navigate and be able to engage in your environment. And it's the same thing with language access. Now, my opponent just admitted that, you know, this has been a problem since when he was in the council, you know, 20 years ago. Nothing was done about it. You know, at the beginning of 2020, you know, right just prior to the pandemic, I proposed a comprehensive language signage plan for City Hall. Now, my vision was use City Hall as kind of like a large Rosetta Stone. People are engaging with it. It's a point of contact for all of our residents. This was supported by a number of community groups like the Chinese Culture Connection, the Greater Malden Asian American Community Coalition, the list goes on. Unfortunately, it was opposed by the administration and some of the councilors that served on that, councilors that support my opponent. You know, there's a habit in our community to make decisions so difficult that we just kick the can down the road. We saw this with lead pipes. Can you think about all of the children that may have been able to benefit from not being exposed to lead exposure if something was done 20 years ago when my opponent was on the council? So, you know, I look forward to working with the mayor since public facilities is under his responsibility. I look forward to reviewing a comprehensive language access plan when it's ready. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor O'Malley. Now we are going to proceed with our 7th question. And this question was brought to us by the Malden Chamber of Commerce. During the pandemic, the value of natural outdoor space became more obvious to all of us. But Malden in 2017 had the 5th lowest amount of outdoor space per person in the state. and our population is growing. To your ward residents, would increasing the amount of natural outdoor space and shade trees be made available to them? And this question is going to be brought to Councillor Crowe. I'll see if I can bring her up again.
Can you repeat the question?
Of course I
You're in
can.
this business, I was don't think in a different way.
Okay, of course. Excuse me. My apologies. So does increasing the amount of natural outdoor space and shade trees, would that be made available to your ward residents if they were to go with your candidacy? I cited that in Malden in 2017, Malden had the 5th lowest amount of outdoor space per person and in the state. And I also added that the population is growing.
Absolutely, absolutely. They have access to outdoor space and more shade trees. I'm forever sending money to Bobby to add shade trees and putting a couple of little marks on. When the dog and I walk, we call it patrolling the ward, and so we see these things. But so I have in my time in office is I've done some things to upgrade and preserve some of the open spaces. I've dedicated funding to make the basketball court, which is so used at Green Street Park. We had it done over, secured funding to make the top lot at the Ferryway School ADA compliant, and we've put in a couple of play panels in there too. We secured lighting, funding for lighting, electrical and storage upgrades at Green Street Park. But working with Alex Pratt and some contractors, the bids came in much lower. So we're going to really redo again the basketball court down at Green Street Park, because I think it brings these people together. It brings lots of people down there, and we're going to add some play panels to the top lot. There's lots more I want to do. There's we have historical Bell Rock Park, which is a beautiful passive park. I'd love to do some work to make these the walkways more accessible to people with children or wheelchairs. And one of the biggest things in Ward 1 is we have the Malden River, and really the Malden River works that we've all been very excited about is really going to transform that area and be the calling card of how the rest of the river should look. That's the goal. So we've done that. We're starting with that project, but then putting in some other zoning around the rest of the buildings, just really encourage, as there is anything being developed or redeveloped over there, that it really meets the same standards. So definitely open space, and we're going to find open space wherever we can. And in Ward 1.
Thank you very much, Councillor Crowe. We're going to ask the same question to Councillor Lenahan, and I'll bring her up as soon as I can. All right. Hello, Councillor Lenahan. Would you need me to repeat the question?
Yes, could you actually repeat it one more time?
Sure. So during the pandemic, the value of natural outdoor space became more obvious to all of us. But Malden in 2017 had the 5th lowest amount of outdoor space per person in the state, and the population of Malden is growing. The question that I ask is that for those residents looking to your city council re-election, does your city council election include increasing the amount of natural outdoor space? This includes parklets and outdoor dining areas, as well as shade trees to be made available to them.
Thank you. Yes, it definitely does. I think Ward 3 has an embarrassment of riches when it comes to open space. We are making major investments in all of our parks this year, both Fellsmere and Patchell, as I previously mentioned. We also, like Councillor Crowe, added an inclusive playground at the BB school with the same federal funding. There was not previously a backyard play space at the school. I personally place a tremendously high value on tree plantings. And, Ward 3, it's interesting. We may have proportionately more parks, but we have some of the least amount of ward funding that comes to us each year. So we have to budget very well to be able to maximize the number of trees that we do plant each year. And I'd like to see more funding for that citywide. I'm very excited about being able to add new green space at the Malden Hospital very soon. And Melrose Wakefield is committed to preserving the mature shade trees that we already have there and creating more linkages from that new open space down to the other parks that we have in the nearby vicinity. You know, trees to me both clean the air and provide shade. They combat that urban heat island effect, and they're critical to our climate mitigation efforts. So just overall, I think citywide, I'd like to see us add more shade and cooling elements at all our parks, both trees and structurally. And then, you know, finally, I think I'd like to see us work a little more aggressively to acquire even unbuildable lots of land that might be undeveloped, that we could preserve and just have them as sort of raw, undeveloped open space, just for the benefit of the clean air and the shade and the beautification of our neighborhoods.
Thank you very much, Councillor Linehan. I'm going to bring up Glenn now. All right, let me go ahead and do that. All right, Glenn, same question. Do you need me to repeat the question?
Yes, please.
All right. So what can, or rather yet, what does your candidacy for the city council mean for increasing the amount of natural outdoor space and shade trees available to residents? This includes parklets, outdoor dining in the streets, etc.
Okay, so in Ward 3, I mean, we have the pond right there. We have great space. Unfortunately, Ward 3 is too dense right now to be putting up anything in this area. And talking about transparency, I mean, this is the first time I'm hearing from my councilman that, you know, we're in talks with Hallmark Health about green space. I just don't know where it's coming from because, you know, I wasn't informed. You know, is it a meeting that no one was allowed to go to? Because, you know, I've been very active, I'm very interested in what's going on with Hallmark Health. We've been left in the dark. And now, I don't know, I just don't understand where, you know, we're getting this information about green space and what we're putting up there if we still haven't decided, even heard from Hallmark Health, or even had, you know, Ward 3, you know, representatives up there to listen to Hallmark Health. I mean, again, we have a councilman that's representing us, but we're not getting the information that we need to make an accurate, you know, depiction of, you know, what should be there, what we can do with this land. And until we can meet with everybody, come together and realize, you know, what everybody's agenda is, then we can make a decision. But until then, you know, I know the city does a lot of planting trees. We're doing a great job. I mean, Ward 3 is very unique from, you know, the rest of the city where, you know, we have parks, we have the park down the street, we have the ponds. I mean, there's so much open space that can be used. And again, we're in a pandemic and people are just not going out. So, I mean, when it was in full stride, I mean, there were things going on weekly that brought in hundreds and hundreds of people, which was a great thing to see in the community. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Glenn. We're going to bring on Councillor O'Malley with the same question. Go ahead and bring him up now. 3, 2, 1. Hello, Councillor O'Malley. Do you understand the question? Need it repeated?
Nope, I'm good. Thank you. So as a former park ranger with the Department of Conservation and Recreation, this means a lot to me. Open space and recreation is really important to me. You know, I am the founder and the chair of our Community Forestry Plan Advisory Committee. And through that committee, which has a number of resident arborists on it, we were able to get a DCR challenge grant to conduct a citywide street tree inventory. Every tree in our community that is in the public right of way has been counted, identified, the species, any issues going on with them. We now have that, and our DPW is prepared to be able to take care of our trees in a way that they weren't able to in the past. We're also looking to do a management plan as part of a second grant that we're going for. I'm also a friend of the Malden River, and we have been able to fight for and achieve just recently a zoning change to require into a zoning, a boardwalk along the Malden River, something similar to the Esplanade. These are open space opportunities for communities that do not have access. I'm also working with Ward 4 residents to bring the Spot Pond Brook Greenway to Malden. Now, this is a great project that is looking to connect to Malden Center. My opponent, unfortunately, has spread a lot of lies about this project. It does not propose to take any private property whatsoever, and it does have huge support in our community and in our neighborhood. We had 3 community meetings, and it was a huge support. Waits Mountain is in our ward. And I have to say, my opponent's time on the council, he got nothing done at Waits Mount. It took him losing to my predecessor, Jim Nestor, Councilor Jim Nestor, to get that Waits Mount into the beautiful park that it is. You know, the proof is in the pudding. Certain councilors get jobs done, others don't.
Thank you, Councillor O'Malley. We're now going to bring on Jeff Donahue, who I imagine will want to respond to that. All right, there you are, Jeff. Here you go. Do you need me to repeat the question or would you like to proceed?
No. I'm no Sierra Club member, but I do know that the downtown corridor, we don't have the space that we need. We have Waits Mount, and yes, I did work on it for 3 years of meetings with Shapley and Associates, but the funding wasn't there. But you know, eventually it does come in. We had some lean years in 2007, 2008. But yeah, he'll take credit for everything but the Louisiana purchase, and that's fine. And his telling statement right now is the Greenway. I'm not spreading lies. I am spreading actual facts that I heard from neighbors. I had a neighborhood meeting. I had probably 30 to 40 neighbors down there telling me what he said when he went to their door to door. And I sat in the meeting and I watched it. When Paul Buckley asked them, if the neighbors don't want this and the intent is to not connect it from Oak Grove to Cordemelee Park, why not kill it? He said, if that's what you don't want, that's what we won't do. And here he is saying, I want to connect the Greenway to Malden Square. It goes right through people's backyards. He talked about eminent domain takings, apparently when I was on the council, and you know, you're accusing city officials of basically strong-arming people. I want you to name one property that was taken by eminent domain when I was on the council. If you have an accusation, make it, because that's a libel case right there, because I know it absolutely did not happen. But, you know, the proposal down there goes right through people's backyards and it takes their property. He told them that, oh, maybe not. Let's be realistic. He told Steve Altrino he's going to run against him in 2 years. This is how you play it. You run your term out and you say, okay, on my way out the door, I passed this and there's no ramifications. We're not buying what you're selling.
Thank you, Jeff Donahue. We're going to leave that portion of question 7B now. We're going to now enter question 8. Now, this is a very, I say we pay attention to this. Question 8 was presented by the Malden Advocate, so please pay attention. Public safety and municipal policing has become a lightning rod issue across the United States. Politicians, lobbying groups have taken stances on issues of budget allocation, or in some instances, reallocation for police departments, with certain slogans such as defund the police or the people's budget becoming synonymous with these reallocations and potentially lowering police departments in terms of their finances. What is your campaign stance on public safety as well as police funding in the city of Malden? And of course, we are going to invite Peg Crow to go ahead and join us to answer that question. Peg, do you need me to repeat that question or do you got it?
No, I think I got it. And you know, public safety is such a wide topic, and in 2 minutes, I want to be really talking fast, but we're fortunate really to have a dedicated police force that has really helped to avoid some of the plagues that cities nationwide have experienced. But it is not news that the police are responding to more and more mental health situations and substance abuse calls. Our police officers need more resources, not less. I had read at one point about a jail diversion program, which I do not like the name, but the tenets of the program is that mental health clinicians train police officers, and with the goal of embedding mental health clinicians to go on ride-alongs when there's situations that they can tell that it's some mental health situations happening there. So I spoke to the police about that. I heard the cries. I heard the, defund the police. I saw the whole way that things were going. Talked to the police about the jail diversion program, and they were 100% on board. So I went and I wrote 2 grants that were both funded, and now the police are training with Elliott Mental Health They're starting to go on ride-alongs. It's not fully funded, but I'm working on it. And the response has been incredible. Officers have been just saying that it's one more tool in the toolbox and they're getting so much out of it. They gave me examples of a situation that happened and this is what we did and how it did defuse the situation. The other component is having mental health clinicians ride along. It is sort of job embedded training. They're working with the police, not instead of the police. So it is something, and it works in other communities very successfully, and it's going to be working very successfully in Malden. And I think you just need to give them more resources, not less. There's a lot going on.
Thank you very much, Councillor Crowe. We are now going to proceed with Glenn Curtis with the same question. I'll go ahead and bring him up once he's ready.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I hear you. Do you need me to repeat the question or do you grasp it?
So let's keep you on a roll, keep you working. Go ahead.
In terms of repeating the question?
Yes, sir, please. Thank you.
Of course. So public safety and municipal policing has become a lightning rod issue across the nation. Politicians and lobbyists and other groups have taken stances on the issue of budget allocation for police departments, with slogans such as defund the police and the people's budget becoming synonymous with either lowering or reallocating funding from police departments to other departments. What is your campaign's stance on public safety and police funding in the city of Malden?
Public safety is huge. Let me first say I support the Malden Police Department 110%. I think they do a tremendous job, and my hats go off to them. My opponent has been endorsed by Our Evolution, and I believe that their views have an aggressive stance towards policing. Malden, again, is probably the greatest city to live in with the police, and they do a fantastic job. I support the community policing, and that's basically it. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Glenn. I'm gonna bring up Councillor Lenahan. And we're gonna, hello, Councillor Lenahan.
Can you hear me okay?
I can hear you just fine. Do you need me to repeat the question?
No, that's fine. I think I got the
Floor is
gist of it.
yours.
Okay, so, being a city councilor is about listening to your residents and building relationships of trust with city departments. It is not about slogans. I want to be really clear. I absolutely reject the notion that we should be defunding our police. I find it disgraceful that this kind of fear-mongering and lying is taking place this election cycle. And I would challenge voters to interact with candidates and evaluate them on their record. Look at our votes. Look at what we say in public and how we interact with others. When I first won election 2 years ago, Chief Mullis was one of the very first people to call me and congratulate me the next morning. We've had an excellent and ever-evolving, respectful relationship ever since. He and his team have helped me with some honestly extremely tricky situations from my constituents, some of them requiring a really unbelievable amount of tact and discretion. I know I can call them any time of day or night and they'll respond because that's what police do. I serve on the committee appointed by Mayor Gary Christensen that's taking a deep dive into what policing means for Malden in the wake of George Floyd's murder. The fact that so much trust was placed in me is something I take extremely seriously. Working hand in hand with that committee of residents and with our police department, this group has collected nearly 1,000 surveys from residents on what we can do to make community policing as effective as possible in Malden. Our community has faced countless challenges around mental health, behavioral health, addiction support, and so on. Being able to supplement law enforcement with trained specialists embedded into response teams simply helps everyone in our community. And I'd like to see more crisis supports like the clinician integration program that Councillor Crowe spearheaded. And I look forward to hearing any additional ideas that emerge once we have the full picture of those survey results. Time's up.
Yes,
okay, thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Councillor Lenahan. We're going to proceed now with candidates from Ward 4, starting with Jeff Donahue. Hello, Jeff. Now, do you need me to repeat the question or would you like to proceed?
Yeah, could you repeat it, please?
Of course. In short, what is your campaign stance on public safety and police funding in Malden, taking into account that it has since become a lightning rod issue across the nation, with slogans such as defund the police and the people's budget becoming synonymous with either lowering or reallocating funding from police departments?
Yeah, I mean, I wasn't a part-time park ranger in high school, but I can tell you this. I do not want to defund the police. I think they are underfunded. Every year they come to the city council for probably $300,000 worth of overtime that's not funded. I believe there's 350 or 400 in the budget. Are they getting 8 new cruisers over the next 5 years? Absolutely. But my opponent sat there and did a little editorial on why we should remove a black police officer from our school system as the officer in the school. Are you kidding me right now? This is the kind of thing that goes on. We've always been underfunded with our police and fire in Malden. They want to do away with qualified immunity. So you're basically saying, as a city official, if I won't back my police, you expect them to go out and do a job and protect us, but you won't protect their rights. It's asinine. Let's just tell it like it is. And as for this alternative budget, my opponent's going to come on here and say, I didn't say any of this defund the police stuff. You're on a 3-minute video in there describing how city government works. And I will tell you this, if my video was on something that I didn't agree with, I can tell you right now, they'd have it down that day. So it's guilt by association. You can sell it any way you want, and that's fine. The police know what you're all about. The fire department knows what you're all about. And a lot of the residents do. We're at a pivotal place. He said this earlier. You're right with this election. You have 5 candidates that have the same campaign manager, all supported by Mass Alliance, all supported by our revolution. Let that sit in. I don't need a campaign manager. I met with Ryan's campaign manager. He told me he's under contract. I don't need to pay someone to get my message out. The community is going to speak, and they're going to speak November 2nd. And I hope they see through the lies. You can sit here and spin it any way you want. The truth is out there. Ask your local police how they feel. Ask a firefighter how they feel about the way they've been treated by their Ward 4 councillor. That's the only barometer that you need.
Thank you very much, Jeff Donahue. We're going to bring on Councillor O'Malley. All right, Councillor O'Malley, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much. There is definitely a motif and a theme for the night, and it is my opponent and his mischaracterization and lies. Our community definitely deserves more than lies, and that they will not be fooled by his lying this time. We all remember where Jeff came from. We remember where he came from. We know his history, and the suit and tie doesn't fool us. To hear you talking about this the way you are nowadays, it really rings hollow. I'm a big supporter of unions. I've been endorsed by the Greater Boston Labor Council. I've been endorsed by Labor's 22, a number of other unions. People in our working families in our community know where I stand. I do have a problem when we are laying off workers, but we're laying off some workers, but then we're paying other workers a ton of overtime. I don't think that is the union way to do it. We want to make sure that we're protecting our workers. As I stated earlier, I support Malden Police. And on this issue, I stand with Mayor Christensen and Chief Mullis. They are leading the effort to evaluate Malden's use of force policy. And I've spoken with a lot of police officers and community members about what we ask our police officers to do in this community. And one thing is pretty much universally agreed upon. Like Malden public school teachers, our police officers are asked to wear many, many hats. We call on these brave individuals to fight violent crime, human trafficking, detect crime syndicates, and most importantly, uphold our civil liberties. When it comes to responding to interpersonal conflicts or mental health crises, even substance abuse, we're asking our police to be medical professionals or to be social workers. There's been a rising and alarming amount of upticks in shooting in the Linden area, murders that are going unsolved. I want our police focusing on violent crime. I want our police focusing on solving these and preventing these murders. I believe it's important that, like Peg Crow has said, Councillor Peg Crow, let's bring in community clinician integration program with Elliott Human Services. This is something that Councillor Crow has done, and I thank her for that. the rhetoric is unnecessary. We all support public safety in our community. No one's recommending that we make our community less safe. It does require more resources. It just has to be the right resources for the problems that we face. Mental health and substance abuse.
Sir, thank you so much, Councillor O'Malley. That was time. My apologies. Now we're going to proceed with the last portion of the event. We're going to do closing statements. Unlike the rest of our forum where we go through Ward 1, 3, and 4, we're going to do the reverse. We're now going to start with Ward 4, 3, and then 1. I'm sorry, Councillor Crowe. You are going to have the closing statement indeed. Now we're going to bring up Jeff Donahue for his closing statement. I'll go ahead and bring him up now. All right, Jeff, the floor is yours.
How much time do we have for our closing statement?
Of course, you have 4 minutes for your
Okay.
closing statements.
Thank you. And thank you guys for doing this tonight. You know, you can sit there and talk about rhetoric and talk about all the things that were said tonight. I just remember who shot the first shot across the bow, accusing city officials of eminent domain takings. I mean, the list goes on and on about the lies you told tonight about not taking properties by eminent domain. Go knock on the door down there. Anyone, I encourage anyone to go knock on the door and see how they feel, because I've done the hard work down there. I've walked around. You can talk about parks and we can talk about all these things, but let's put it like this. You want a counselor that can have an approach to foster relationships and build on that and work with his other counselors and get things done. That's not getting done. You know, you're taking credit for papers that you didn't sponsor. The best thing I saw was recently you said, leadership, I took the vote to give the voice back to the community to speak at city council meetings. Well, no, 2017 or 18, they changed the handbook rules from the city council. It was 11-0. It was just a rule change. But when I was on the council, we didn't stifle the voice. If somebody wanted to speak, we said, all right, we'll sponsor you, bring you up. Let's talk about the issue. But apparently in the last 6 years, that's kind of gone by the wayside to the point where you had to readjust the rule book. And that's fine. But to say, you know, Jim Nestor did all this and Jeff Donahue did nothing. You've been there for 6 years. What's gotten done? You talked about bringing in the Rosetta Stone to City Hall. You know, you talked about it, but it didn't happen. You also talked about the lights at the Heritage. They didn't happen. Oh, wait a minute, they did, because I did it with Councilor Craig Spatafora, and you took a picture and took credit for it. We all know the game. You're going to sit here when I'm done. You're going to tell everyone how it's all lies and I'm Ryan, I'm the good guy. You haven't held a job in 13 years. You worked at the casino. We're a host community. That's a conflict of interest. You were fired from there. You worked at Whole Foods for about 4 months. I go, since then, what have you done? You've done nothing. You've applied for a job at the Pine Banks as a director down there, conflict of interest. Your mother, salt of the earth woman, you tried to get her a job down the DPW. She interviewed for it. You sent out an email calling your neighbors NIMBYs and asking the Bike to See people to call in to override their voice on this bike path, the Greenway path. I have it here in black and white. You can tell any story you want. I don't like to play this game, but if you want to play dirty politics, just remember the one thing I've always been straightforward, straight talking, and I do my homework. You might think you've heard it all tonight. There's plenty more in the gun. And the gun usually is supported by the police department. And I hope we're all right that this year is the end of you, because I mean, I just can't, I don't understand. You're a smart kid, and the sad part is you could have done a lot for the city, but you're navigating it the wrong way. You don't want anyone's help. It's your idea or no one's. You're the best. Good luck with that. This is Malden. Have some Malden pride. All right. 5 or 6 candidates sharing the same campaign manager. That's sickening to me. That's telling me where you're trying to take the city, and Malden's not going to put up with it. See you November 2nd. And thank you again for hosting this tonight.
Thank you, Jeff Donahue. We're now going to bring up Councillor O'Malley for his closing statements, and he is allowed to also address some of the things stated. Councillor O'Malley, the floor is yours.
Yeah, thank you. That was rather alarming. I wasn't expected to be physically threatened at our debate here, particularly considering his history. So this is kind of alarming. Yeah, I do want to thank UMA for hosting this event. I think the choice is really clear on November 2nd. The residents of Ward 4 have to choose truth over lies. I guess it's also, violence or using your words and actually having a debate. The truth is we've accomplished a lot together, to be honest with you, but we have so much more work to do. Through hard work and dedication to equity and inclusion, we can empower all of our residents and ensure that Malden works for everyone. By investing in Malden Public Schools and expanding vocational training programs, we can provide a world-class education to every child. By cutting the red tape, we can help our local businesses recover from the economic devastation of the pandemic. By working together, we can continue to invest in our roads, sidewalks, parks with state and federal grants, so we can save local tax dollars for our essential services. Through mutual trust and respect, we can continue to fight for a better city. With my experience, leadership, and bold vision, we can get this and more done. Again, my name is Ryan O'Malley, Ward 4 City Councilor, and I humbly ask you for your vote on November 2nd. You know who I am. I take the hard votes, but everyone knows where they stand with me. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor O'Malley. We are now going to bring up Councillor Lenahan for her closing statements. All righty. Hello there, Councillor Lenahan, the floor is yours.
Thanks, Guillermo. I really want to thank you and UMA and all of the candidates for this opportunity to share our views and our vision for the city. We're certainly living through challenging times, but I know that Malden's going to come out of this even stronger, and I cannot wait to continue serving my constituents and the city. I first ran for public office because I wanted to be an effective communicator, listener, and collaborator. Serving you is the honor of a lifetime. I love Malden. I love our neighborhoods. I'm excited about our future, and I wouldn't raise my family anywhere else. As the only full-time working mom of young children on our entire council, I see the ways that bringing the diversity of perspectives to the table benefits everyone. When you're commuting, trying to afford childcare, juggling 2 jobs, facing down unemployment, or taking care of sick family members, you bring those to the table and you develop the critical skills that every counselor needs, which is humility, empathy, and persistence. Nearly every day, a fellow parent or caregiver or someone that I only know through the school or my daughter's soccer team brings me a question that they felt comfortable asking just me, even though they may not be in my ward or even eligible to vote. I hear all the time from renters and young people who've never had a candidate ring their doorbell or even listen to what they had to say. I take community engagement very seriously because I believe that the best ideas rise up from the community, and it's my job to make connections, elevate resident ideas, and get things done. I love just spending time in our community, listening to those ideas and finding ways to help. Helping people is what I do, and you will not find anyone who works harder for you than I do. I'm proud to be running as a working mom, as a public school parent. I'm proud to be endorsed by organizations that share my values, like Mass Women's Political Caucus, Our Revolution Malden, the Sierra Club, and Greater Boston Labor Council. Fighting for working people, good jobs, and our children's future is my life's work, and I hope you'll join me. I encourage anyone watching who has more questions to contact me. My phone number and email are basically all over the internet. You can go to cityofmalden.org or amandalenahan.org. I pride myself on always returning calls and emails, and I humbly ask for your support and your vote on Election Day, November 2nd at the BB School. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor Lenahan. I'm now going to bring up Glenn Curtis when he is available, and we're going to allow him to provide his closing statement. Glenn, the floor is yours.
Okay, I'd like to thank UMA and everybody else that made this possible, for making me the nurse I've ever been, because again, I'm not a politician. I'm just a hardworking father of 3. But before I get into that, I just want a quick question for my opponent around the last discussion. Do you support defunding the police? And are you willing to answer, to the Our Revolution survey that they don't back you or they do back you? Are you willing to get into that? With that said, I want to just, thank everyone again. And I'm not a politician. You can obviously see this, that I'm nervous. But what I am is I'm a hardworking father, okay? Small business, family business owned. I'm in the community all the time. You know, I'm meeting people. I'm always, you know, always getting to meet new other people, you know, get to know everyone. We're changing the, you know, the neighborhood with, you know, everything that we do, you know. Again, I'm not a politician. What I am is I'm going to be that guy that doesn't stop working. I'm going to be that guy when you call me, I'm going to answer the phone. I'm going to be that guy that you need to make Ward 3 the greatest place that it could possibly be. Okay. You know, I'm approachable, you know, I'm everywhere in Malden. You ask anyone, you find me, I'll be there. You call me up, my number's out there. I said website, I have, you know, whatever you need to get to me, if you need someone to get to me, it will be done. I promise you that I will never stop working, you know, to give you my 110% effort. Again, I'd like to thank everyone. I'd like to say, you know, goodbye to, you know, my daughter and my son, you know, serving this country. And I appreciate, you know, everything that you guys do. And I love you guys. And again, vote for me. And I promise you that I will make Ward 3 great. Thank you. Good night, everyone.
Thank you very much, Glenn. We're now going to bring up Councillor Peg-Pro for her closing statements. There you are. Councillor Crowe, the floor is yours.
So I'm going to keep it short. I'm going to end where I started, first with thanking UMA for hosting this, and to the organizations that really putting forth those questions, you know, very insightful. And to my fellow councilors and candidates for really stepping up, I think, and putting it all out there and all showing the passion for the city and how we should move forward. Whether we agree or not, we all want the city to move forward, just which direction it goes. So it's unfortunate that my opponent couldn't be here. I understand, but you know, I show up every time, not just for this, but I show up in my ward, I show up for the city, and I show up on behalf of all my constituents. You know, I spend an awful lot of time. Constituent services is one of the things that I think spend the most amount of time with. Last couple of days working with a family and housing families and lots of really tumultuous situations, but I show up. I'm there all the time. They know where to call me. They do call me. So, and I think I want to continue to show up for you. I said before, I'm running for re-election because I do believe we have a lot of great things going on. And I do believe in the next 2 years is going to be critical because we do have that unprecedented amount of money, that one-time money, and it really is going to take good stewards to make sure that we use that money appropriately to really help Malden move forward, and then we help us build a strong foundation. I said I have my sleeves rolled up already. I'm doing the work now, and I want to continue to the work. So I thank Ward 1 for their support in the past, and I really respectfully ask for your vote on November 2nd. Go Crow.
Thank you very much, Councillor Crowe. And that is the end of the question portion of our forum tonight. I am Guillermo Hamlin. I am your evening's moderator, and I'd like to thank you for tuning in. And I'd like to thank all the candidates for participating tonight. And also please be aware that to please make some time to tune into our other ward events that are happening on October 7th, where we will be hosting candidates from Ward 5 and 6. As well as later in the month of October, on October 20th, we will conclude with candidates from Wards 7 and 8. Please visit our site at urbanmediaarts.org and follow us on social media to be up to date with changes and or confirmations. I'd like to thank the Malden Chamber of Commerce, the Malden Advocate, GMAC, Chinese Culture Connection, the Malden High School's Blue and Gold for providing us questions. I'd like to thank the volunteers and the crew members at Urban Media Arts. I thank, again, all the candidates. And I wish you all a really good night. And please remember to vote on Tuesday, November the 2nd for your ward councilors. Have a great night and be safe.